I want to show you another thing. Yesterday I showed you verses 9 and 10, how Paul uses a very careful chiastic structure in verses 9 through 11. I want to show you another intentional use of language that Paul does only in verse 11. He starts with the phrase, and that's what some of you were, and then he says, but you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God. Paul's not a casual writer. He's not just writing off the top of his head. I want to suggest that he was careful planning in what he wrote and would constantly use play on words, chiastic structures, intentional sentence, poetic way of saying things to get his point across, and I think he does it here again. Let's just break this verse down. He starts with that phrase, that's what some of you were, but, and then it's three phrases. You were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified. So he uses three things there, and then I think Paul follows that up by using three more things. And he says, but you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified. Then the next phrase in verse 11, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, by the Spirit of our God. And he mentions all three members of the Trinity. I don't think there's an intentional way of saying one of these members of the Trinity was involved in any of these in particular. I just think he lists three things, so he lists three more things. Paul does that a lot. In fact, if you read the book of 1 Thessalonians, there's a debate among, I don't know if it's much of a debate anymore, but if you're in Bible college or seminary, there's always a debate about is man made up of two parts, body and spirit, or is it body, soul, and spirit? And someone who believes in that man is body, soul, and spirit typically goes to 1 Thessalonians, because that's where Paul says, may God keep you your body, soul, and spirit. Therefore, there's three parts to a person. But if you look through the book of 1 Thessalonians, through the entire book, over and over, Paul loves to list three things at a time. So he's simply breaking man into three different parts. In that case, where in another place he breaks it into two different parts. So it's always important, and again, this is not, what a casual reader of the Bible probably would care about. But I think in your admiration of the Bible, in your admiration of how God uses human authors, it's great to see how intentional Paul was when he wrote. And this is the great news. It's some of the best news of chapter 6, if not the greatest news. That we used to be sinners, but now we've been washed, we've been sanctified, we've been justified, and all by and through the Trinity, Jesus, the Father, and the Spirit. Thanks for taking a look.